how did you end up meeting Eminem, and how did that whole connection kind of come about?
Well, you know, let's say like, okay, so in 2000, I was in New York, and I signed a production deal with this dude named Mark Siegel, and Mark Siegel passed on Eminem. And in his office, he had a whole stack of tapes, and I just happened to see a tape on the floor. It's 2000, and it was an In Too Deep tape, which was white rappers, right? And he had overdubbed In Too Deep with his demo,
Okay.
Eminem, that he gave to Mark. Mark passed on him. So I put that tape in my pocket. I stole it, and I took it home, and I told my cousin Jared, I was like, and we're sitting in an apartment in a fucking rusty ass 82 box Chevy Caprice, you know, like with on food stamps and a fucking in the hood basically, and I pulled that tape out, and I was like, look at this shit. I was like, one day I'm gonna put this in his hands, bro. I promise you. And he goes, damn right you are. And you know that I think that there's this, when you're in the bottom together, you know what I mean? Anything's possible. You know what I'm saying? Anything's fucking possible. It's like when he said that, you know, when I look back on that, I know why he said damn right. It's because he needed me to be successful as much as I needed him to be successful, you know? But man, you know, 10 years later, I put that tape right in his hands. And I didn't ask for a photo. I didn't ask for any documentation for it. That was for me.
Nice.
But how I met Marshall specifically was, you know, we got a deal with Columbia. Fuck, my years get away with me. In like 2000, fuck, I don't know what it was. I forget. But my first deal was with Columbia. Then Rick Rubin came in to Columbia and fired everybody. So that deal was gone. And I had to go back to Gadsden. And we got it cracking again, and Pop the Trunk came out and was buzzing real hard. So we had deals on the table, a lot of deals. But, you know, I had already done the song and dance, you know, performing for people in their offices and nothing happening. And, you know, so L.A. Reid brought me in to do to give me a deal. It was just days before Christmas. We didn't have shit. I didn't have shit still. And it's like literally like 3 days before Christmas, you know, and my kids are kids, you know, like I got a Christmas to take care of. Right. And I got nothing. And I'm in a house with no heat. I mean, dude, we're like boiling water to take baths and leaving the oven open to heat the house type of deal. And he offered me, he brought me into the office, and I was with Kawan Prather, J. Jones, Courtney Seals, Bear, myself. We went into the office, and L.A. Reid had brought the whole company into his office. He sat me down in front of his desk. He was like, Yelawolf, something like, Yelawolf's gonna give y'all the acapella version of what he does. And he put on a beat, and I looked at KP and I looked at LA. I said, man, LA, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this right now, man. Like, this never works. So I got a show opening up for Raekwon tomorrow night. If y'all want to come see me perform, you come see me. I'll be in Harlem. And he goes, well, what are we doing? I was like, I don't know. What are we doing? And Kawan kicked me so fucking hard under the table. And he said, I guess nothing. I said, well, I guess nothing then. And the whole company was like, this dude just turned, oh my God. And then as soon as I walked out of that door, my anxiety just fucking swallowed me. I was like, oh my God. I thought I was gonna fucking puke. I was like, I just fucked it all up. I fucked everything up. My managers wouldn't even speak to me. And that next night, when I did open up for Raekwon, I walked out on that fucking stage. I was so gone in my head about what had happened. I was like, yo, what up? I'm Yelawolf. This is my first time in Alabama. And oh my God. Boo! They just fucking went off on me.
Damn.
First time in Alabama. What an idiot. But I got through that. And I think a month or two passed. And shit, Pop the Trunk was still buzzing, really heavy. But I still didn't have shit, you know? I wasn't like getting like, I didn't have shit quite yet, you know? Not shit meaning no deal. Still in the same piece of shit house. So LA calls me and personally and said, I just want to have a meal with just me and you. Just me and you. And it was me, Kawan Prather, and LA Reid. And so he sets a date to fly me up there back to New York to have this personal one-on-one meeting with them. And so I went to Waffle House up the street and I wrote and memorized this verse for him. And we went up into the office and Kawan didn't know, no one knew I had this verse. And he sat me down in front of him and he was playing Pink Floyd. And when I walked through the door, so I was like, he's been studying me. He knows I like classic rock. So he's playing Pink Floyd and he goes, you know what the song's about? And I was like, no, not really. He goes, if you listen to the lyrics, they're saying, they're talking to a CEO and the CEO asks the band, you guys are great, but which one of you is pink? And so what he's saying is the CEO didn't know who the fuck he was talking to, you know? I'm just like you, you know, and we're the same person. I used to be an artist. And so look, are we going to do this? Let's do this. And I stood up and turned my back and I walked out and I walked over to the windows looking over Manhattan. And I just started fucking snapping on this verse with my back turned about how hard Christmas was, how hard it was to tell him no, and why I had to tell him no at that time, and why I was gonna tell him no again. And when I turned around, Kawan was crying. It was an emotional thing.
Sure.
And I was like, man, KP, you play my shit for Eminem yet? And he goes, you're crazy. You're crazy, Wolf. Seriously, you're crazy. And so Jimmy Iovine, I guess, heard about that. And when I went to play South by Southwest, Jimmy sent Todd Parker out to, which is a good friend of mine now, Todd Parker out to follow me around South by Southwest. And we fucked South by Southwest up. We snapped. You know, I was doing like 4 shows a day. And Jimmy had Todd and I and Kawan flown to LA and straight to his house. So we had done that whole weekend, and then we flew out Monday morning straight to his house. I was sitting on his couch in his living room waiting for him. He comes out. He goes, listen, man, I heard what happened. We're not gonna do none of that tap dancing shit. He goes, Luke, he's talking to Luke Wood. He goes, Luke, bring the checkbook. And he brings the checkbook. And I was like, hey, man, listen, you don't have to cut a check, man. I respect how you've done that to begin with. And honestly, I love Interscope. And, you know, I've always been a fan. You know, I know the history. I knew some of his history, you know, his connection to Fleetwood Mac and all that. And so I respected the way he handled it. And I was like, man, it's all good, man. I'm in. Let's go. He goes, you like basketball? So he took me he's like, yo, crank the car. Took me courtside to see the Lakers. And, you know, a couple days later, he had pitched to to partner up with Eminem. And then Eminem, it wasn't really happening quickly. But then my homie Jim Johnson was doing Satellites, that Eminem record, Satellites with Haley in Miami. And Jim Johnson, because he's such a fucking real friend and a homie, he's like, yo, seriously, you heard Wolf yet? And he hadn't seen it. So he played him Pop the Trunk, the video. And he filmed it and sent it to me. He had somebody filming Marshall watching it. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God. Shit, it was like days later, we were in Detroit. And we just clicked, man. It just happened. And, you know, and there I was standing in front of Marshall. And when he walked around the corner, reciting Pop the Trunk.
Oh, nice.
Word for word.
That's awesome.
Like spitting it back to me. I was mind blown.
When did you give him that tape?
So after we signed with him, I think within that month, we were like, fuck it, let's go do an album. You know, let's just go to an album. So we locked in, myself, Pooh Bear, at Molly Malls in Vegas with Willpower. And we did an album. And when we went back to LA to see Marshall at his Super Bowl Lipton party, and it was me, Dr. Dre, Slaughterhouse, Marshall, myself, Paul Rosenberg, KP, J. Bear. And I was sitting next to Marshall and I was like, hey man, I did an album. He said, you did an album? Because I was like, yeah, I did an album. He goes, what? He's like, oh, Paul, you did an album. And he goes, what? And they were both like, what? Let's hear it. So he set up a studio time the next day, and I had that tape in my bag on purpose. I knew that I had the album, and I knew that I might have an opportunity to play it for him. And so the next day I walked in the studio. I was like, hey, man, I got something to show you. And I've had this for 10 years. And I put it in his hands, and he goes, what? And he told me the apartment he was living in when he cut it. Him and Royce were living together in this apartment. You know what I mean? He knew exactly the tape. It was his tape for real.